this is just trying to map out how we were trying to change our design process around this. So in the traditional design, we would do the geometry of the glass and the building kind of based on aesthetics and whatever else were driving that decision. And then we might go and say, okay, code says this is what the U value needs to be for the glass, and we're going to be better, so we'll just kind of up it or whatever it might be. But we'd sort of pick it based off of, not really informed based on comfort, let's just say, based on other reasons. And then when it came to value engineering, if that happened and they tried to say, well, you know, triple glazing costs a lot of money, so let's go to double glazing and it'll be cheaper. And you know, we just put in the permeating heating system, and it was kind of, it wasn't integrated.
I'll just pause for a moment.
Yeah.
You guys would be surprised, when I practiced, you know, in my career at Gensler and so on, you'd be surprised how many decisions about putting a building together are just kind of like, I don't know, we did it on the last project. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, where's the actual data and information that sort of proves that this is the right thing to do? And there's this, I don't know, there's this old-fashionedness about making buildings. That it's like, well, what did you do in the last one? Well, and if you want to do something different than what you did in the last 2 or 3 buildings, like, wait. What are you talking about, you know? Yeah. So that's when you really do need to prove that you're not, you know.
Yeah. I mean, and that's something that, like, our whole industry, because our, like, buildings are expected to last a long time, they're expected to, you know, be these things used by a lot of people, we are very adverse to change as an industry. And that's why people say the building industry moves so slow, you know, and it's very hard to move things. But that's also the reason why tools and simulations and research, why this is one of the most effective ways to make change. Because if you can prove something works before you make the building, you can start to have enormous impacts on what happens.
And you're teeing up these transitions. It's really good.
And you know, I always say that the building envelope is one of the most important things to invest in up front, because you might go through and replace the lighting system in 10 years, you might change the HVAC system in 20 or 30 years, but you're not going to take off that facade and replace it, maybe ever, but certainly for probably 50 years. So investing in making sure we don't value engineer what we need from the performance of that facade is really critical.
Oh, that's a really great statement right there. Everybody should just take that and write that down, record it, play it the next time you're presenting your project to a client.
And so, you know, so we wanted to try to create a tool, as I said. We started off with a goal. I am not as technically savvy as Chris, and so I started off with the goal of wanting to make a chart in Excel. And trying to take these kind of 5 factors that we talked about that looked at both radiant discomfort and downdraft, and trying to combine them into one chart that I could then reference to say, my design is going to be okay. And so this project actually started just about 3 years ago now, actually in 2014. We had a little bit of a slow time, and so one of the another building scientist and one of the staff and I kind of started delving into this and trying to figure out how we could approach this. And so we came up with an Excel chart. Then we looked at we started getting a lot of, there's a new technology called room side low E that came out that we started actually getting as a value engineering alternate to a lot of our triple glazing. So we kind of added in researching that as part of our research project. And then at a certain point, we decided we really needed something that was a little more dynamic. So we ended up with the Grasshopper tool and the online tool that's had a few different versions that we're going to talk a little bit more about.
Yeah, and this timeline is kind of just showing that there were also a lot of publications along the way, a lot of presentations of this. And I mean, also on there when, like, the 6 people that are on the project, when each of them sort of came in. And you see I'm at the end there.
Okay. Yeah, so it's a group effort. Chris and I are here representing, you know, the work of many.
Very good. Okay.
And so the idea for kind of this tool, we wanted to, like, not just have it be, you know, one person's tool that sits on their one machine. So we wanted to make sure that a lot of groups were involved. And so we definitely, as building scientists, we did a lot of research into the existing standards, into existing, you know, papers and publications on what had been done to research this topic, which was very necessary. But we were also very sure to try and engage the design community, the architects. And also us having architecture backgrounds, knowing what are all the capabilities, all the types of facades that we need to simulate. And finally also bringing in people who, well, including myself, who know scripting and coding and interface development. And so each one of those things was kind of brought together in, you know, bringing not just knowledge from different parts of, from different disciplines, but also, bringing skills kind of into one tool and different aspects of that tool.
Yeah, and I just, you know, as a kind of a bit of a plug, this was all developed in-house, and so I think one of the things that we did a pretty good job of is trying to figure out the different skills in-house. So there was someone that happened to be really interested in web design and really good at kind of D3, tapping into Chris and some of his abilities, tapping into the building scientist's ability. We had a couple architects working on it who deal with design and kind of how they think that would integrate into the design process. And so kind of the conglomeration of the different viewpoints that everyone could bring, I think, is really what made it a useful tool. It's if we only had one of those perspectives, I think it would have lacked.
Yeah, and certainly there are many examples of tools out there where you know it was just the one person with their one perspective, and it's important. That's also why we keep the tool open, because we want this to be a dialogue.
Yeah, so this is the part where we're going to sort of jump in, and we're going to get into the guts of how these guys developed this glazing and comfort.
Winter comfort.
Winter comfort.
Yeah, because we don't look at solar radiation in the summer
I
and
know,
some of those
yeah,
issues. That's our next tool.
GSCDT. I don't know. That's terrible. I'm bad at names, so I'm not the right guy. But anyways, so here's what's interesting. I mean, if you know, I don't know how many architecture firms you've worked at before or what your experiences are, but the fact that, here's a firm who has a research arm. What? Architecture firms don't have research arms. So here's a firm that has a research group. You told me a little bit about how your research group works.
Yeah.
You mentioned that it was primarily yourself, but that what you guys do is you sort of lead the research efforts among the staff. So actually the people who are doing the work and figuring out this research and kind of doing the studying and doing the iterations and whatever.
It's not me.
It's not you, it's the people, it's the good old architects who are doing it, right? And then as you just mentioned, I just want to highlight this point. So I could certainly name some firms who, sure, they do have research groups, and they keep all their stuff in-house. So they have their little research team, and they develop their little tool, or they develop their little script or whatever, and then they just share it internally, and that's it. And they do that because they consider maybe that's their competitive advantage. So actually, can you comment on that topic?
But well, I think I get the sense, and actually I can even, maybe the most honest way to comment on it is to say that there was also that mentality in Payette at first, when we first came out with the tool. And it took some convincing of the heads, all the principals that we really are going to see the benefits of this.
Well, there's a diverse view set.
Yeah, there's a diverse view set,
Yes.
yeah.
But not everyone was on board.
But that's very much so changing now, and it's definitely changed in Payette. I know we're seeing a lot of benefits from the tool, and I think it's changing industry wide too. I've seen other offices now slowly, at least, starting to realize that we have much more to benefit by putting everything together and validating one another's tools, or we may have one piece of the puzzle and someone else may have another piece of the puzzle, and putting those together. Rather than just keeping all our individual chips to ourselves.
So tell me a little bit more about that. I mean, we talked a little bit about this on the phone prior to this. Some of the benefits that you guys see, just the straight up, what do you guys get out of making this available for everybody, anyone to use?
I think there's a couple benefits. I think ultimately our goal is to advance the industry.
Sure.
And if we all want to advance the industry, we need to share our best knowledge and how to do that, because I'm going to benefit from someone else's tool, and if they keep it private, I'm not going to get to benefit from it. So I think we see the value in sharing it so that we can all kind of advance together. There's certainly a marketing benefit. I mean, if we hadn't made it public, we wouldn't be sitting here with you today, and you wouldn't all be listening about our tool. So we're getting a bit of PR from making it public and having ourselves associated with being expertise in a certain topic. And I think,
And we're also, maybe just, we'll show this example in the tool itself, but as an example, the scientists, these brilliant scientists over at Berkeley, are redeveloping the comfort models right now that we use to evaluate the draft, that discomfort at foot level. And they have a much more accurate model that describes our case much more perfectly, but they haven't published everything yet. But the fact that we made our tool open and that they could see the stuff that we've done, that we're sharing our iterations with them, they have shared their model with us, that we're able to collaborate much more easily because we were open with this to the start. And because they were also of this open mindset, that there are benefits. It will all around be a much better tool, a much better workflow, and if we share this stuff.
And I could imagine the counter argument is, if we didn't share it, or if you didn't share it, then you guys would have that expertise. You could go to Marc and say, we're smarter than everybody else, right? but actually that's what you're doing by sharing it.
Yeah.
You're just saying, oh, look,
Yeah.
we're smarter than everybody else. So it's actually sort of the same thing,
there's
but you're getting
also-
the benefits of other research and plugging into other things, right?
Yeah.
And there's also a bit of an awareness issue. Like, so we have all of our research on our website, and the other big research project that we've done is we got a grant from the AIA to look at thermal bridging.
Mhm.
And thermal bridging is a really big issue in terms of building envelope performance. But if we just keep saying, well, we're experts in building envelope performance, but nobody's talking about thermal bridging and thermal comfort, like nobody knows it's an issue to care about. So you almost have to build the demand for why people should care about it, which requires you to kind of share and talk about what you're learning.
And you're bringing up, I think, another point here. There's a big difference between just saying that you're smart and proving that you're
Yeah.
smart. and it's that validation from other peers who look at your tool and other experts who say this is a good thing to use.
Yeah, when you have a smart client who's like, oh wow, these guys claim to be really smart, let's go see. Then
Yep.
you go, and you find that public research or publicly available research. So needless to say, I think part of the spirit of this whole super simple idea is to sort of share ideas because it advances the profession. And
Absolutely.
so that's why I want to sort of drill in the point that there's actually really great benefits for doing that.